The Lost Christmas Valley Legacy. Before the Lumenstone Valley War, before the rise of the stags and the fall of the unicorns, there was a forgotten village nestled deep in the snowy crater. This is the Lost Christmas Valley, the tale of a boy, a dog, and the choice that changed everything. Chapter 1. The Valley. Over 200 years ago, in the town of Christmasville, located in the Valley of Christmas Crater, Saxons and fairies lived side by side in straw thatch huts. The Saxons were physically strong but lacked common sense, which allowed the fairies to dominate the people of Christmasville. The Saxons were farmers who worked the land around the crater, growing wheat, oats, and barley. These crops fed the livestock and the people. Some Saxons also produced dairy, cheese, butter, and milk. Christmasville was surrounded by snow-capped mountains that shed water into the streams. Rivers flowed down into the valley, eventually emptying into a lake formed by the impact of the Christmas crater. Below the timberline, redwood and cedar trees covered the slopes. Wildflowers bloomed in every direction. Unicorns roamed freely through the forbidden forest, and above the timberline, many caves had formed during the last eruption of Christmas crater. Only one narrow pass connected the valley to the outside world. A small group of elves also lived in the valley. They hunted wild game and traveled often. These elves were short, quick, and cunning. They had pointed ears, high-pitched voices, and large, dark brown eyes. The wizards lived in the mountains between the Saxons and the elves. They resembled humans but were wise and powerful with magic. At one point there were hundreds of wizards. During this time the Saxons and the wizards shared a peaceful relationship. The elves, however, were once peasants under the rule of the wizards. Over time resentment grew and the elves revolted. A war broke out over land rights. The elves believed the forbidden forest was their rightful hunting ground. Battles were fought there for hundreds of years. The wizards suffered more losses than the elves and were ultimately defeated. After the war, the wizards were banished from Christmas Crater. Only one wizard and his son were allowed to stay, because the elf ruler, Lord James, owed that wizard his life. During the war, Lord James and the wizard John had fought one another in battle. John had the chance to kill Lord James, but chose to spare him. That act of mercy left a deep impression. Lord James respected John, and feared him. After the war, the elves made Lord James their new ruler. He was strong, fit, and intelligent, a warrior who had earned their loyalty. Chapter 2. The Wizard's Gift. A litter of puppies was born in the town that loved Christmas. On Christmas Eve, John the wizard went into town to choose a puppy for his son Jack. The cutest, most playful pup in the litter caught his eye. John paid 10 chazets for the dog and brought the little gift home. Jack was both joyful and excited. "What will you name him?" asked the wizard. "I want to call him Rex," Jack replied. And so Rex it was. Rex and Jack quickly became the best of friends. The dog was part wolf, part Saint Bernard, and he grew to be very large. He had a wild spirit, full of energy and devotion. Every day he played with Jack. When they weren't running together through the grass, Rex was off chasing rabbits, squirrels, cats, and any other creature that moved. Jack and Rex loved their time together. Chapter 3. Jack and Rex. Jack was a bright young boy of 8 when Rex came into his life. Abandoned by his mother as an infant, Jack grew up very close to his father, John. That was all he knew. John loved his son dearly and did all he could to guide him down the path of goodness and wisdom. Jack held a deep respect and admiration for his father. Over the years, Jack and Rex became inseparable. They would do anything for each other. Rex was fiercely protective of Jack and always slept beside his bed each night. Every morning, Rex would wake Jack for school and then anxiously await his return. They played games for hours, sharing joyful moments and building memories filled with laughter. Jack's home sat atop a mountaintop. The magnificent castle overlooked the valley, offering a gorgeous view that stretched for at least 20 miles in all directions. Another settlement, Val d'Aver, lay within the valley and was a town of elves, but it was off-limits to Jack. Jack and his father were the last remaining wizards in the valley. The elves were known for their cruelty toward wizards and constant bickering among themselves. They distrusted all magical people, and John feared for his son's safety in such an environment. Chapter 4. The Fate of Rex. As the years passed, Lord James grew lazy and physically unfit. He had a son named Frederick, who wore deerskin clothing and was as adventurous and strong as his father had been during the war. His favorite pastime was hunting wild game in the valley. One day Rex was chasing a rabbit that led him deep into the forbidden forest, where the elves lived. Frederick, who often ventured into the forest to hunt, spotted the rabbit, and behind it, a large dog that resembled a wolf. Frederick paused. He figured that killing the dog would provide far more meat than a small rabbit could. Besides, he reasoned, the dog could pose a threat to the livestock of farmers in the valley. Without hesitation, Frederick raised his bow and, with one clean shot, brought the dog down. Upon returning home, Frederick showed his kill to his father. Lord James immediately recognized the animal. It was Jack's dog Rex. His heart sank. Lord James was disturbed and afraid. That night, under the cover of darkness, he dragged Rex's body back into the forest, hoping to conceal what had happened. Days passed. There was no sign of John the Wizard, but the guilt weighed heavily on Lord James. Chapter 5. The Conflict. One day Jack returned home from school, but Rex was not there to greet him at the door. "Dad, Rex wouldn't run away, would he?" Jack asked, his voice trembling. "I wouldn't think so, son," John replied gently. They searched the entire perimeter of the palace, calling out for Rex. But there was no sign of him. Jack was overcome with worry. As evening fell, John comforted his son. "Get some rest. I'll keep searching tomorrow." The next afternoon, while Jack was at school, John found the lifeless body of his son's beloved dog. He brought it home heavy-hearted. When Jack returned and saw Rex's body, he was overwhelmed with sorrow. All the memories of the adventures they had shared thundered before his eyes. He kept these emotions buried deep inside. That night they buried Rex. For days, Jack shut himself away from the world. He lived in silence, drowning in grief. A few weeks later, Jack went into town. He had made up his mind. He was going to find a way to bring Rex back. He walked through the snowy streets until he reached the Wishing Will Come True shop. Inside, a kind-hearted fairy princess named Isabel greeted him. "What can I do for you, young man?" she asked with a gentle smile. "I have an important wish," Jack said, trying to hold back tears. "I want my dog Rex to live again." Isabel's smile faded with sympathy. "This task is too great for my powers," she said sadly. "But you need to speak with Holly, the queen of the fairies." "You can't grant my wish?" Jack asked, his voice cracking. "I would if I could, my friend. But Holly may have the power to help you." Jack hurried to the palace. Holly's maid opened the door and led him into the queen's chamber. Holly was sitting at her desk, looking annoyed at the interruption. "What do you want from me?" she snapped, not even looking up. Jack repeated his wish and waited in silence. "Can't you see I'm busy?" Holly shouted. "Why are you bothering me with this nonsense? You're a fairy, aren't you?" Jack said, his voice rising. "Why not help?" "Yes, I am, boy. I am the queen of all winter fairies in this land," she barked. "So go ask your father the wizard. Let him restore your dog to life." "But he can't," Jack cried. "He isn't trained in that kind of magic." "Oh, that's too bad. Now get out of here." "I wouldn't have done it anyway." "Go home, boy." Jack left, furious. His grief over losing Rex was no longer just sadness, it was turning into something darker. Bitterness crept into his heart. Now he was going to seek revenge. Chapter 6. The Decision. During the long walk home, Jack's mind was racing with emotion. He entered the house feeling depressed. His father, John, noticed his downcast mood and gently asked how his day had gone. Jack told him everything: his rejection by the fairies, Holly's harsh words, and his wish to bring Rex back. Over time, Jack and his father began talking more about the future. Jack expressed an interest in learning magic. They discussed several schools that Jack could attend. Names like Nesedy, Dunedin, and Langsford came up. Langsford University of Wizardry and Magic excited Jack the most. It was also his father's alma mater. Together, they agreed it would offer him the best opportunity. Messengers were sent to deliver Jack's application to Langsford. Not long after, an acceptance letter arrived, and Jack celebrated with a festive party. There was music, food, playful magic, and dancing. Dishes from all over the valley were served: squid, bear, kimono dragon, potato salad, sushi, and platypus eggs. Close friends were invited, including Isabel, who served as the ambassador to the fairies. The house was filled with laughter for the first time since Rex's death. Everyone in attendance had a wonderful time. In the following weeks, Jack prepared for his journey to Langsford. He was excited and anxious. After saying all his goodbyes, he packed his things and readied himself for the hike through the mountains. He hoped for good weather and a safe trip. Around this time, Holly learned that Isabel had attended Jack's celebration. Concerned, she secretly instructed Isabel to keep a close eye on the boy. Chapter 7. The Journey. The main path that led through the mountains took Jack deep into the valley toward Christmasville. He stopped to gather some needed supplies, unaware that Isabel had started following him in secret. That night, Jack camped near a stream that wound through a quiet forest. Isabel watched silently from the trees. Jack dreamt of Rex. In the dream they were running together through the forest, laughing and playing in the meadow surrounding the castle. But the dream faded quickly. Jack awoke to the sudden snap of a branch nearby. "Who's there?" he called out, startled. Hearing no reply, he assumed it was just an owl and went back to sleep. From her perch, Isabel held her breath. She had accidentally broken a branch while casting a spell intended for warmth, but used one that shattered ice instead. The branch splintered loudly. She quickly flew to another tree to remain hidden for the rest of the night. The next morning, Jack collected firewood and stumbled upon the branch from the night before. The break looked strange, sharp, clean, and frozen at the edges. It was as if it had been touched by ice. He realized then that someone was following him. Still, he pressed forward on his journey to Langsford. Along the way he heard many strange and wonderful animal sounds: zogo birds, sabre squirrels, dodo birds, striped zillope rabbits, and Dachshund deer. As Jack walked deeper into the forest, a strange new sound caught his attention. "Where are you going?" a voice called out. Jack turned and froze. A unicorn was standing behind him. He blinked in surprise. "Were you talking to me?" The unicorn nodded. "Yeah, I'm talking to you." I said, "Where are you going?" Jack replied, "I'm heading to Langsford to study. I want to become a wizard." "What's your name?" the unicorn asked. "Jack," he answered. "What's yours?" The unicorn replied, "Thunder." Thunder chuckled. "Why are you going to become a wizard?" "To take revenge on the fairies," Jack said without hesitation. Thunder tilted his head. "Why go to Langsford to learn that? I can teach you the art of wizardry." Jack paused, then asked, "How long would it take?" "Only 6 years," Thunder said. "I can teach you the spells you'll need for your revenge." Jack nodded. "Let's get started." He followed the unicorn deeper into the mountains. High above, hidden among the trees, Isabel watched the entire exchange. Her heart sank as she recognized Thunder. Wasting no time, she flew off to warn Holly and the other fairies. For 6 long years Jack trained under Thunder. He learned the skills of dark spellcraft and ancient magic, focused only on one goal: vengeance. When those years passed, Jack was ready. He returned to Christmas Crater, his heart hardened. But the fairies had already escaped before Jack arrived. They fled just before he cast a powerful time spell that sealed the valley in a magical dome. 200 years later, the fairies tried to return, but the valley was protected by a shimmering wall that felt like glass. Holly attempted a powerful ice-breaking spell. It failed. The fairies held council to determine how to break the curse. Holly recalled a counterspell, but she wasn't powerful enough to cast it alone. Only together, combining their strength, could the fairies finally undo the spell. Chapter 8: The Villagers. Bill, a hiker, was walking through a forest. He saw a mountain in the distance and thought it would be fun to climb. While hiking, he stumbled into a hidden hole, a tunnel that led him deep into Christmas Crater. When he emerged, he decided to hike to the nearest village. The villagers watched from a distance, startled to see a man coming out of the mountains. Curious and cautious, they gathered in the streets as Bill approached the town. He walked into the center of the village, wondering who these people were. The villagers introduced him to the village chief, a cheerful man named Rollo, who served as both cook and storyteller for Christmasville. "What's your name?" the chief asked. "Bill," he replied. "Where are you from?" someone in the crowd asked. "Chicago," Bill said with a grin. The villagers looked at one another, confused. What?" the chief repeated, furrowing his brow. "Chicago. It's a city, a big one with skyscrapers, trains, and cars." The villagers whispered among themselves, clearly puzzled. None of them had ever heard of such a place. To them, the world beyond the valley was a mystery. Bill realized that time worked differently in the crater. He explained what had changed in the last 200 years: flying machines, moving pictures, people talking across the world through glowing rectangles. The chief welcomed him into his home and fed him well. Over time, Bill made friends in the village. He helped with cooking, gathering herbs, and telling stories of the world beyond the mountains. Before he left, the villagers told him the story of the valley, the crater, the stags, the fairies, the wizards, and the ancient magic that once held the land in balance. "I'll write it all down," Bill promised. "The world needs to know what you've preserved." With a full heart and a notebook of memories, Bill left Christmasville, vowing to return one day. Thanks for watching The Lost Christmas Valley. If you love this story, hit the like button, subscribe to EDJCMP, and ring the bell for future tales.